Boogaloo. Films, bad films, lots of films, very, very bad films. Watch that film, then talk about it. It's Electric
Hello,
Boogaloo
everyone,
with
welcome
Matt
to
and
Electric
Keenan.
Boogaloo, the show where we make bad films worse. I am the rap that Will Smith wrote to describe the plot of Suicide Squad, Matt Bradley.
And I am Miss Anglo-Saxonia, Keenan Groom.
Miss Anglo-Saxonia. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. I'll explain that later.
Please do, in great detail. So this week on the show, we watched a little film called Wild Wild West. We headed straight into the Wild Wild West.
The wickedy Wild
Wild West.
Oh, this...
something of a mess of a film. I think I've always known this film to be a bad movie with one of the best movie theme songs ever, and I stand by that. I
think it's one of the best casts of a film as well. The people they got for it was incredible. I didn't dislike the film. I enjoyed it, but it was a shambles.
Well, I'm fairly sure, and I'm going to Google to make sure I'm right. This is the film that Will Smith turned down The Matrix for.
Who instead of Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, well, they offered it to Will Smith first. He turned it down so he could be in this, I think. Which was a choice.
I'm trying to work out on paper who's got a better cast. They're quite equal, aren't they?
Yeah, he turned down The Matrix for Wild Wild West. And, The Matrix has Keanu, it has... I've suddenly forgotten everyone.
Hugo Weaving, Lawrence Fishburne.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas this has, Will Smith, Kevin Kline, Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
They're both fairly stacked cast. Obviously, The Matrix went on to be a bigger success. I think propelled its cast into higher stardom. Obviously, Will Smith, Kevin Kline, Kenneth Branagh, big stars. But I think the cast of The Matrix got more of a boost than the cast of Wild Wild West did, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It was.
Look, we'll get into all of it, but first, do you have a little snack for me?
Yes.
Oh, a little snack for me.
The snack of choice today is not a snack, but a drink.
Oh, a liquid snack, as you might call it.
A liquid snack. I'm trying to work out how to do this one for you. I can either give you the country and what it's called, and you've got to describe it to me, or I can describe it to you, and you've got to guess which country it's from.
Describe it to me, I'll guess the country.
Okay. This is kvass. Okay? This is a bread-based drink made from rye bread croutons soaked in hot water in wooden barrels.
Oh, this sounds awful. It's called kvass, you say?
Yeah, Kvas, so kvass. It's basically a fermented bread drink.
I'm going to guess it's somewhere in Eastern Europe then. I'm going to go with Estonia.
Ooh, try around that bit a little bit, but
Latvia?
Not Lithuania.
I was in the right area.
Yeah, so you got it right, pretty much. You knew it wasn't a random South American drink or an African drink. You got pretty much close enough. I got
the region. I'm okay with that.
I'll give you that. Yeah. Kvass, a bread-based drink made from rye bread, soaked in wooden tubs with hot water.
I'm sure it's nice. They wouldn't drink it if it wasn't, but it sounds really gross.
Obviously, this doesn't apply to Lithuania, but if you go to that part of Europe, this is when you start getting surströmming and stuff like that. So it's a palate that I don't think I'd be used to.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's an acquired taste.
Yeah. But yeah, not for me. I don't think I
like
drink. I don't want warm bread juice.
I mean, I'd have bread in soup. So it's just like they just took the tomato flavor away. Stick a tomato in that bad boy, and you've got a tasty cup of soup.
But this is like a full-on liquid, so they would have strained it. So it's literally just it's basically you boil a loaf of bread, you take the loaf of bread out, and you drink all the water.
Oh, you said fermented, right?
Well, I think it's not fermented. I assumed it would be fermented. I think I just made it sound better than it was. It's put in wooden barrels and it's given a beer-like colour. So I assumed it fermented, but I think it's just bread water.
If it's fermented rye, that's just like
whiskey,
a beer, right?
I
Which I don't like, so I probably wouldn't like it.
I think it's just bread water.
Just a bit of bread water, you know.
Yeah.
You know how it is. They were like, they walked home from the shops with a loaf with like a baguette under their arm.
It started raining
and it got wet, and they just sucked on the bread and were like, delicious. I did a French accent because I've got no idea what Lithuanian people sound like.
I think that is pretty much what it is.
And that's the perfect snack to drink while you're watching Wild Wild West.
Well, people must think that popcorn's weird in some countries, so you know.
Gets in your teeth. Isn't bread water. So the first thing you need to know about Wild Wild West is Wild West Jim Rest Desperado. And you don't want to see his hand or his hip yet.
Yes.
I'm just saying quotes from the song.
Okay.
Yeah, so Will Smith stars as Jim West, who is an army captain?
Yeah, U.S. Army, yeah.
Yeah. But he's essentially a spy.
A cowboy spy.
Which sounds great, honestly.
I suppose that might be why he turned down The Matrix, because would you like to be the lead in a cowboy spy movie? Or would you like to be in a spy movie that has computers?
Yeah, it's like, do you want to be...
cowboy spy?
Yeah, it's like, do you want to be a nerdy hacker who becomes Jesus, or do you want to be a cowboy spy who blows up a giant spider? And like, I would be into the second one, based on those two pictures.
Yeah, that was all I was given. I'd take that one.
Yeah. And to be fair, if he'd done The Matrix, he would have had to do Matrix 2 and 3. So...
Who's winning here? Still Keanu Reeves.
Still Keanu, yeah, he did pretty well. Anyway, Wild Wild West. So this is based off a 60s TV show following a similar plot about cowboy spies fighting against technologically advanced villains. Mm-hmm. However, the villains are never as technologically advanced as they are in the movie. The movie goes goddamn wild with it.
Yeah, it's very advanced for, when is it?
The 1860s.
Yeah, the 60s, but of a different century.
Mm-hmm. It would be advanced for the 1960s.
Yeah.
So Jim West is a cowboy spy. He's hunting down the man who killed his family in a Civil War massacre. Mm-hmm. The film has a lot of like racial undertones that I wasn't expecting, but I was into. Yeah, especially appropriate during the times we're in right now. Seeing a black man kill Confederate soldiers was pretty great.
Yeah, the way they did it, I think they did it very well. In a way that they used black jokes, but they didn't do it to the detriment of Will Smith's character.
Yeah,
they were more like over the top stereotypical puns that were then used as a counter argument to Will Smith's puns towards another character, which we'll talk about in a bit. So I think it was sort of like
all of the
make fun of everyone.
All the derogatory jokes came from like the obvious, hilarious supervillains.
Yeah, they weren't
so from clearly. Yeah, I mean, there's always the argument of like, if you do that with your villains, you're still writing it, which... But at the same time, you kind of couldn't not have Kenneth Branagh's character say crazy shit like that, because oh my god. Again, we'll get back to Kenneth Branagh. He's the best thing about the movie. So he meets up with his like future partner Artemis in his like raid against this Civil War Confederate guy, and Artemis is cross-dressing, and he does that a lot, and it makes a few lazy gay and transphobic jokes, but it's the 90s. What can you expect? You hate to see it, but it's going to be there.
I suppose it's done in a way that Stardust does it in Mrs. Doubtfire and things like that.
Stardust does it a lot better than this.
But like that is that sort of I'm undercover rather than like they sort of had like they sort of had a justification. I'm not saying it was like a perfect representation, but they had a justification for it in the spy rather than
it wasn't
just making fun.
Yeah, it wasn't making fun of him because he was like a man in a dress. It was like essentially criticizing. It was essentially saying that like transgender people can't pass was the joke that I was getting from it, which was where the awkward translate became for me. Whereas in a movie like Stardust, they make jokes about it because it's Robert De Niro, but it never feels hurtful, if that makes sense. I will defend Stardust to the ends of the earth. It's my favorite movie. Anyway, he meets Artemis. They go on an adventure on a fancy train and fight bad guys. That's your movie. It is a buddy cop, spy, cowboy adventure.
Yeah, that's what I put. The titles seem more... The titles lend itself to a Will Smith film. Like the beginning titles. It seemed like it was like just going to be bad boys, but with a cowboy skin on it.
Yes.
I suppose the more you went along, it was a cop film, but they just changed the time period so they could find an excuse to ride horses and film in the desert.
And have a fancy train full of gadgets, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, okay. A lot of those gadgets didn't make an awful lot of sense. Like,
oh, no, not at all.
The billiard balls full of like poisonous gas and whatever, that's just a classic like James Bond staple. I'll accept that. The button that flips the pool table over and puts you under the train, less sure about that one.
Yeah, this is like an electromagnet, but then you'd have to know. You'd have to put on some sort of suit or...
Yeah, and then like it's all held together by like one wire that breaks incredibly easily.
Right, so just remembering, like he flips it twice with Will Smith on it. The first time he flips it and he's hanging upside down because it basically just turns he flips it, but then
it lowers and he's the right way up and he can get out of his ropes easily. It's like one time it's a trap, the other time it's a tool for good. And they don't show him edit it at all in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no point trying to justify it.
Yeah. There's a whole thing where Artemis invents a bulletproof vest. It's just chainmail.
Yeah.
It's just chainmail.
How bulletproof is chainmail? That's the question.
I imagine it could probably stop one, and then that would break the chains on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never shot a knight.
Because obviously it's to do with weight and stuff, but armor isn't used nowadays. But I think armor to be very useful.
Yeah, I mean, what I imagine it would be is you could probably survive being shot, but it would knock you over.
Yeah.
And then they would just run up, lift your helmet, and shoot you in the face. So it would be useful for like a second, but Kevlar is probably a better option in war.
Yeah.
However, this is the 1860s, so the best they had was a patch of chainmail.
Where did they get the chainmail from? He was knitting chainmail.
Yeah, you can't. Can you knit chainmail? Don't you need to be like a blacksmith to do that?
Yeah, because they sort of just link it together, don't you? Like scales.
What we didn't see was that his needles are incredibly hot, and he's wearing asbestos gloves.
That makes more sense.
So yes. they work for the president. Ulysses S. Grant, I guess.
Yeah.
And when they meet him for the first time, Artemis is in disguise as the president, and that's a weird scene.
Was Kevin Kline the president as well?
Possibly. Let me look that up.
Because if not, they got a very similar looking actor.
Yeah.
And if he was, their way of duplicating it in the late 90s, the software to use that was very impressive.
Yeah. So this is going to be the usual thing of me Googling in the middle of a shoot. Cast. Yeah, no, Kevin Kline plays the president as well.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, if that's how they do it, it's a pretty convincing way of doing it. Yeah. And Kevin Kline does a good job. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. I think the acting in this film is fine.
Oh yeah, the acting. There's no. It's a cheesy 90s film.
Yeah.
But there's no bad acting. I wouldn't say none of them are bad actors.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case of overacting certainly.
Yeah, but it's an over dramatic film. I think it just lends to it. It's just a bizarre waffle of a script, I think.
Yeah, the reasons I would call it a bad movie is the plot doesn't make a lot of sense. The dialogue's quite bad. A lot of the jokes are fairly lazy, but the performances are good. And I think it's time to talk about Kenneth Branagh because, oh my God.
Yeah, and I can go back to. I usually like to write things down. I used to.
Oh, okay.
No, we'll go to Kenneth Branagh. I like to write down loads of quotes and stuff, but basically, I'd have to write down the whole film because it was just all nonsense. So I think today I'm going to talk about his bizarre inventions and Kenneth Branagh's minions. That's what I'm going to talk about today. So you can talk about the plot a bit more.
I really want to talk about Dr. Lovelace.
You can talk about Dr. Lovelace as much as you want.
Kenneth Branagh plays a Confederate supervillain who chews the scenery so hard, and I could watch him play that character for 24 hours and not get bored.
Is arguably Oscar-worthy, that performance.
Yeah, it is so over the top, but it's so much fun to watch. He's talking like the comparison that came to mind. This is going to be a very niche reference that nobody's going to understand but me. Did you ever watch the Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged show on YouTube?
I watched the normal cartoon anime.
Well, there was a series on YouTube that was like it took clips from that, condensed the episode into down to like 5 minutes, and it was done in like a comedy style. The way they played the villain in series 4 of that is this very over the top Southern character who talks a little bit like this, and he's like replaces all of his R's with W's, and he's like, "I will destroy the world." And it just reminded me of that the entire time, which again, no one's gonna care about but me. But it's what I felt.
I can give you a better reference.
Please do.
These characters were basically the characters from Django Unchained if Tarantino was a 4-year-old.
Okay, yeah.
Basically, Kenneth Branagh's accent was very similar to DiCaprio's accent in Django.
I could.
It's a similar sort of plot, not going to lie. It might be the same film.
Except this one has giant spiders.
Yeah. It's the same film.
Yeah. To be fair, I've not seen Django Unchained all the way through. Did giant spiders show up in that movie?
Might as well. They don't, unfortunately.
Well, this is a better movie then. Here's my thing. That scene where Leo DiCaprio breaks the glass and like keeps going. If that happened in this movie, Kenneth Branagh's character would break the glass and be like, I hurt my hand. I hurt my hand real bad.
Yeah. You've nailed that. Well done.
Yeah. My favorite scene of his is either the one where he's like describing breaking up the USA to give it back to its like original owners.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the Native Americans, obviously.
East Coast back to Spain.
Yeah, it was like, I'll give back the original 13 colonies to the Great British Empire. I will give Florida back to the Spanish, and I will give Mexico, it's Texas and California, back. Mi casa es su casa. It's brilliant. He just, the way he says like things in foreign languages gets me every single time. I think at one point he says "core blimey" to the British people, and it's so good. He's like "core blimey." It's kind of as an Irish person, so.
Are you forgetting something about his character that you haven't mentioned yet?
Oh well, the fact that he's like half robot.
The fact he has no legs.
Yeah, well, that's the thing I was going to bring up, is that like all the jokes about him having no legs are again pretty bad. Not a great representation of disabled people, but at the same time, the CGI is really funny.
It's one of those things, like they're not the most imaginative jokes, but when he's being like arguably disrespectful to Will Smith's character, the ones about him are quite funny. Like, want to get a leg up on things, or you've got me stumped. They are quite. You can't deny they're not. Yeah. They are very funny.
They're all right. My favorite one is during like the final showdown between the two of them, where Will Smith like punches him in the face, and he's like, "All your technology, it can't beat a good pair of legs." And he responds like, "I see you're not a poker player," and then creates 4 robot legs out the bottom of his chair, and he's like, "Because 4 of a kind always beats a fail." It's so dumb. Again, I could listen to him say things in that accent for a full day and would never get tired of it. It is so funny.
That's the thing. We usually spend about half an hour talking about the plot. We've pretty much done the plot. That's the plot.
Yeah. It's another one of those movies, a bit like Freddy Got Fingered, where the plot doesn't matter.
No.
You just want to talk about the performances.
I think we should talk about the technology of this film.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, it all started when we first see Loveless in a carriage, and he brings out a wand, and the wand extends and hooks a wagon, and then the wagon falls. Yeah, that's the starting. He's got a little.
You see that? And yeah, that makes sense. It's like a little extendo hook thing. That's fine.
Yep.
And then, to be fair, the other early piece of technology you see is Bloodbath McGrath's earpiece. Which, like, an ear trumpet's a genuine thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the thing people would hold up to their ears to hear better. His is built into his head, and he tips it and goop falls out of it.
Yep.
It's real gross. Luckily, he's not in the movie for very long.
Yeah, so what else is there? There's, obviously, he's got his machines. I think most of them are just machines for him, aren't they? It's it's Gordon that has all the weird spy gadgets.
Yes. Well, one machine of Loveless I want to talk about is his tank thing.
One with the weird hydraulics. When he goes above
the one that's covered in guns.
The one above the tunnel, then the hydraulics bring it back down to the...
No, that's his train.
Oh, that's his train.
I'm talking about his... that is dumb, though. We'll get back to that. I'm talking about... There's a scene where, like, McGrath's army gathers, and Loveless rides out of the bayou on a tank, and just, like, the tank rotates 360 degrees and fires in every direction, killing all of the army. And it never appears again in the movie. Why bother having the giant spider robot if you have a tank that can kill people in 360 degrees in the Wild West? The Wild, Wild West.
You can't climb a cliff. Or walk to Utah. That famous house of the president.
Well, he was there to finish a train line.
I like to think he lives there.
He's there visiting his Mormon friends.
Yeah, Ulysses S. Grant lives in Utah.
Oh my God, Elder Grant.
Mm-hmm. He's a Mormon.
That's a Book of Mormon thing. It's Ulysses S. Grant's
He invented Mormons.
It's true. Joseph Smith, Ulysses S. Grant, look about the same to me.
Mm-hmm. There we are. So he's got a tank, a train, and a spider. They're his vehicles of choice.
Yeah. The giant spider is so dumb. It's so dumb. Because it's so impractical as well. Because again, the tank, you can just attach all the things that the spider has to it, which is like the rocket launcher and the net gun.
Right? Yeah, because the tank attached to the back of the train, which means it's very easily transported.
Yeah.
Wait, the train will be quicker than the spider as well, won't it? And the president was on a train line, so he could have just travelled on the train line. Oh, I've just worked out the flaws in logic of this film.
But then also the giant spider is hilarious, and I'm glad it's there. And it's so bad as well, because it just like they set it in a direction and it fucking walks off a cliff.
Yeah.
They don't even pay attention to the navigation or anything. It just walks off a goddamn cliff.
Does it? Can it change direction?
You'd assume so. But we don't see it do that.
I think it just walks straight, doesn't it?
Yeah. And they walk off a cliff. So, oh no, a cliff.
Oh. So arguably, Gordon's inventions are better.
Mm.
So we've got he has a lot of clothes attachments, should we say? So he's got a belt buckle that hypnotizes you and makes you actually act like a dog.
Hmm.
There's that one. He had a little brooch that had a old-fashioned like boxing glove type clown, the mechanic. He had a
buckle that had a gun in it.
A buckle that had a gun in it. He had
like a notepad and pen.
Yeah, a notepad and pen like flew out of his arms.
Sleeve
Notepad. You know. He had. Then part of the pool table was the pool cue was a lever. Can you actually play pool with it?
Oh, I'm assuming at least one of them could be removed, or two.
Yeah, because there was.
Or perhaps there was there were four, so you'd assume two of them are levers, two of them are pool cues. Right?
I like to think all of them.
Yeah,
and all the pool balls do different things as well, and you forget when you play pool, and then you fall asleep.
Yeah. Like he has to have a separate set of pool balls if he actually wants to play pool, surely. Because if you accidentally hit the number on the 15 ball, it just puts you. You're trying to pot the black, and you accidentally hit the 8 and blow up your entire train.
So this train was his.
It's the government's, but he improved it.
Because there's like a weird little trampoline ejector seat on the back of the train that flies you into the air, opens the roof, and lands you in a chair.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, she wasn't that important to the plot. But just quickly talk about Salma Hayek's character,
Rita.
Right. So they let basically one of the part. This is a completely irrelevant part of the story. But they left her on the side of the track and then drove off in the train. And then all of a sudden she appears. Did she run after the train and then jump on the back and then get ejected up like Will Smith did when he got off the horse? Or was there some weird grabby system and she got grabbed?
I think my thing of what I think happened is, you see the train drive off and you see Kevin Kline looking out the window to her sadly. And then as soon as she fades out of view, I think she ran and jumped on the train, intending to stow away, but gets bounced up.
Okay. We'll go for
is
it.
My guess.
Because
her character is so useless.
Because she was actually friends with the villain, but then the villain turned on her. So what was the point? So
she was hired by the villain to be an entertainer because she was there looking for her husband, who she claims is her dad, which is weird.
Who's the scientist.
And then she refuses to have sex with the villain, so they lock her in a cage. And then Artemis frees her. She joins back up with the group. Both Will Smith and Kevin Kline are attracted to her. She just has her ass out at one point for no reason. You do get a section of dialogue that I enjoyed, which is
The really dumb
I think
bit.
she'll be a breath of fresh arse. I mean, a breast of fresh air. It's time for you to get some shut ass.
Yeah, it's really dumb
Really
dialogue.
stupid. Yeah, and then she proceeds to be entirely useless for the entire rest of the film. But she does, and going back to Kenneth Branagh, a thing that I forgot to mention, she brings me to my second favorite Kenneth Branagh scene, which is where Jim is like yelling at him, like, "You can't even do anything with her. You've got no legs. You've got no genitals. How are you going to have sex with her?" And he's like, "You think I can invent something hard and throbbing to attach to myself?" And then it cuts over to like a giant penis-looking machine.
I didn't even
Which
notice
kind of
that.
pulses a bit. Did you not?
No. Oh no.
You'll maybe have to go back and look at it. It's the scene where they're in the desert and they've got the giant collars around their necks.
Okay. I was
And
making
Loveless
lunch
is just
at the
still in the
same
train
time.
and is about to drive away. And Jim and Loveless have a shouting match, and Jim says, "You don't have a dick." And Loveless is like, "But I can invent a dildo," essentially. And then it cuts over to the machine that fires the disc at them, and it looks like an enormous penis. And it's like, so all of your machines are incredibly phallic. I'm sure we don't see it, but I bet the spider has a giant robot penis.
Yeah.
You can't prove it doesn't.
No. Talk about inventions still. Can we talk about the head projector?
Yeah. So that's bad science anyway, right? The whole retinal holding your last image thing, proven pseudoscience, proven to be nothing.
Yeah.
Turning that into a projector, they have a man's decapitated head and they put a light behind his eyes that shoots the last image he saw onto a screen. That image comes out blurry, and Will Smith improves the blurriness by putting glasses in front of it.
And then they remember that refraction happens, so they twist the head 180 degrees.
Upside down. And throughout the scene, the only dialogue Will Smith has is, "That is a man's head." Yes, Will Smith. Yes, it is.
I quite like that scene, not going to lie to you.
Oh, it's so stupid.
What else have I got on this? I've got some weird quotes.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to talk about the Minions, which explains my intro name.
Okay.
So...
I'm with you. I get
so he shouts, "That's my truffle reduction sauce," to the train driver.
Yep. It's a sauce for reducing truffles. I don't know what to tell you.
And then I think and then when they talk about the gadgets, I think you underestimate the convenience of a pocket.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite that's a very English spy movie line there. I can expect Colin Firth to say.
Well, I mean, but Will Smith says it.
Yeah, but I feel like I'd appreciate like Colin Firth saying that.
You'd expect it from like Kingsman, essentially.
Yeah. And then it's almost, I think it usually be the other way around, where like he's like, I'm from my native land, and then someone shouts Georgia. He went, "No, Africa."
Yeah.
It'd have been, I don't know, funnier and more on the nose against the Confederates being offensive if we did the other way around. So like he's like, "I'm from my native land," and when the Confederates went Africa, went, "No, Georgia." It would have been funnier, I think. Well,
no, because he's pretending to be like he's playing it up. He's pretending to be from Africa for that scene, because that's the scene where he talks about drumming on the woman's boobs to say, "How you doing? I like your dress."
That was quite funny though.
Would it help if I said you look like a man?
That was another invention, is a elasticated noose. Yep. It's just a bungee cord.
I mean, the most important invention is his fake boobs full of buckwheat.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing.
Which leads to the "feel my breast" scene.
Yeah, that was funny as well.
Yeah, where Will Smith and Kevin Kline keep saying "feel my breast," talking about like a fake boob, and the train driver keeps walking past and being like, "Huh?"
They basically invent Da Vinci's helicopter. but very, very, very quickly.
And it's just a glider, basically.
Because he already has a motor-powered penny farthing.
Yeah, if you can invent a motor-powered penny farthing, just put a rocket on the back of your glider and fly.
But I'm more on about how quickly they made it. They made it in film 2 minutes, which in their timeline...
An hour at most.
Yeah. Because this all happens over, what, a week?
Something, not even, I don't think. A couple of days. Which greatly overestimates how quick trains were able to move in the 1860s as well.
Yeah. This film just doesn't make sense.
Correct.
Doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, though.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Hello. Are your libraries too loud?
Yes.
Do people read with so much enthusiasm that they let out a laugh or a cry and it bugs you?
They sure do.
Well, think no further. My name is Horatio Waffledoffle, and this is the Library Bubble.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Horatio. My name is ASMR Boy.
Hello, ASMR Boy. This is the Library Bubble. The Library Bubble puts you in a bubble in a library. It's pretty much that. There's no sound that enters it. There's no sound that exits it. Granted, there's no air inside, but you may get to finish your reading in peace before you peacefully die. Here, surprisingly, we have one of our survivors, Tim, to tell us more about it.
I've got big lungs, so I could survive quite nicely in a library bubble. I just took a big breath of air, and then I read the entirety of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire, up until book 5, which was the last one he released. I mean, he's still alive, so he could release the other 2, and they'll get back in my bubble. I'd have to have another gulp of air, though. It's quite hard to breathe in there. Nice, though. Couldn't hear anyone. They couldn't hear me either. When I yelled out about Tyrion, they were like, what's he saying? He's in a bubble, I can't hear him. Cheers, Library Bubble.
The Library Bubble, to help you with your quabble trouble. Book now. Right, so a couple of things quickly. I will go back to Kenneth Branagh's Minions, just because...
Oh, yes, sorry.
That's fine. And also, I don't think I've ever seen a magpie in the countryside. I think I've just always seen them in cities.
Yeah.
So Kenneth Branagh, shut up. He's definitely listening
they probably
to this.
have them in the countryside as well.
Not the point. Right.
Oh, I mean, Kenneth Branagh every single day is searching for Wild Wild West on YouTube. So the day we upload this, he's like, hot damn, the Boogaloo boys are here.
Yeah, so Kenneth Branagh's Minions.
Yes.
He was a man who called his minions names based on either what they did or what race they were.
Yeah, one of them he called Mein Lip Reader or something.
It was Miss Lippenreader, who was a very fun character. Guess what she did? She used binoculars and read people's lips. One of her best quotes were, "Scream, scream, help me, let go of my arm." That's what she said. And then there was Militia. She was the one who attacked people.
Makes sense.
And then there was Miss East. Wonder where she's from.
Yeah.
Amazonia. Wonder where she's from. And then
she's just Jeff Bezos' ancestor.
And then Will Smith disguised himself as a belly dancer later on, and he called her Abonia. Wonder where she's from.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm Anglo-Saxonian.
I see. I'm with you now. Also, while we're talking about his minions, what was the deal with like the redneck dude who was made of metal?
I don't know.
Like, he just died.
He had that random, like, I don't know what his name is in James Bond, the one who's got the throwing, like, ninja hat.
Odd job.
Yeah. He basically had an odd job. The guy with the braids.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had, like, two little fishtail braids, didn't he? And then he had the other one who was just he was just muscle. Just one, and then there's the metal dudes.
Yeah, all his redneck guards kind of made sense. He's a Confederate guy. These are going to be like Southerners who want to take back the South, that kind of thing. Which wasn't Loveless's plan, by the way. Loveless took the Northwest.
He was given the South back to Mexico.
Yeah.
And I guess in turn the natives, just somewhat.
Yeah. That's the thing. Give the Southwest back to Mexico, I'm into. Give it back to the Mexican government, maybe not. The natives from there, yeah. Anyway, let's not get into a big political. The metal dude. Jim West cannot beat him. Like, punches him, he's made of metal. Kicks him the nuts, metal nuts. And then at the end of the fight, he hands him a wrench, and then he gets an electric shock and dies. How does that happen?
I thought it was at first, I thought it was going to be either a contraption on his body or Gordon.
Like arm that's stuck up behind him, yeah.
But he's sort of exposed to the elements.
And then gets electrified and dies.
Yeah.
He's not struck by lightning or anything.
But if that was the case, he wouldn't need to hold the wrench anyway because he's made of metal.
Yeah, it made no sense. It came out of absolutely nowhere. He just got electrified and died. So should we center ourselves, calm ourselves down with a little bit of filmosophy? Filmosophy.
Oh, yeah.
So this week on Filmosophy, I wanted to do Will Smith quotes. But here's a fun fact about Will Smith. He hasn't said a lot of stupid things. Almost every quote I could find on a quote website from Will Smith was like genuinely inspiring.
Even when he does say stupid things, it's funny.
Yeah, and the problem is a lot of the ones where it's like funny Will Smith quotes are just him in character, and that doesn't work for this bit. So I'd like to bring you the wisdom of a Mr. Kenneth Branagh, who has filled me with so much joy this week, and he's going to fill us with wisdom too. Friendship is one of the most tangible things in a world which offers fewer and fewer supports. I think that's quite an important thing to remember in these trying times, and I try to live by that friendship is so important. I live in the English countryside, so I'm surrounded by magpies. I think that's important to remember, just to dwell on and think about how we're all, in a way, surrounded by magpies, deep down in our souls. One of the problems with Shakespeare is that you can never give him a ring. And I think that's important to remember. I think we need to live by that in our own way. Sometimes we are Shakespeare. Sometimes we are unable to give ourselves a ring. And Kenneth Branagh is a wise and powerful man who gives me a lot of feelings. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you for joining me in Filmosophy. Nomo, stamina. Anyway, I think it might be time for us to come up with a new movie.
I think what we should do is make a spy film mixed with another genre or a different time, maybe.
Well, that's the thing. I've got my idea written down. It is a different time period.
Okay, so is it a spy film at a different time period? That's all.
Spy film in a different time period. Yeah.
Perfect. There we are then.
So
I've definitely got mine written down too.
Cool. Well, you think about that while I tell you all about the roaring 20s.
I'm not going to think of it. This is going to happen.
I did a little bit of planning on this one, which means it won't be as funny. Oh well. The roaring 20s, of course, set in the 1920s. So it's like flapper aesthetics, industrial revolutions really kicked off, cars everywhere. But of course, technology in the film is going to be way more advanced than that. So the villain is a German World War I captain, played by Mads Mikkelsen. And his plan is to fly into space using a spaceship he builds to destroy the US's secret stock satellite to cause the stock market crash in 1927. Just wait a couple of years, Mads. It'll happen.
Just wait till 29. You'll be fine.
Yeah. He is opposed by our heroes. So it needs to be the biggest star of now, which like the Will Smith of our time, I would argue is The Rock.
Yeah, he is the highest paid actor, isn't he? At the minute.
Yeah.
So
I think it's safe to say he is the Will Smith of the 2020s, of the 2010s, 2020s. I think that's a fair statement.
I would like The Rock to release a hip hop album, though.
I mean, he can sing.
Will Smith.
He sings in...
Will Smith did release a soundtrack to pretty much every film he was in, and that I do respect him for.
Oh, well, here's the thing. It's going to have a soundtrack, and it's going to be by both The Rock and his co-star. So we needed someone who... Kevin Kline was a Broadway actor and an Oscar winner. So we need someone who's highly award-winning, theatrically trained. Yeah. So I'm going with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Okay.
So it's going to be the classic pairing of Lin-Manuel and The Rock from Moana back again in the Roaring Twenties.
With Mads Mikkelsen. Okay.
With Mads Mikkelsen as your villain. And they're solving crimes. They're working for President Coolidge, played by Steve Buscemi. And during the movie, who are the from the 20s can they meet? They meet Disney. This film is produced by Disney, so in this movie, Walt Disney is a saint.
Who plays Walt Disney?
He's going to be played by... It's going to draw in the internet crowd because he's going to be played by Shane from BuzzFeed Unsolved. Which I think is quite good casting for Walt Disney, actually.
Don't know what it looks like, sorry.
You've seen BuzzFeed Unsolved, haven't you?
I'm guessing he's the white one out of the two.
Yeah. And he's going to be playing Walt Disney, and he's just bringing his entire feral energy. He's the overactor in this movie.
Okay.
And he's just... Walt Disney is just running around yelling about mouses, or mice, as normal people would call them.
Normal people do call it mice.
And in the end of the movie, when they bring down Mads Mikkelsen's spaceship, he creates a giant robot that looks like a dog.
Okay.
And he attacks Wisconsin with it. Why Wisconsin? Why not?
Very true.
And the end of the film, in the credits, there is a rap. And it's just an entire rip-off of Wild Wild West. We're going straight to the roaring 20s.
That's my movie. Is Al Capone in this film?
Yes, and he's played by... It's going to be controversial casting because they cast a female Al Capone for the first time.
Okay.
And Al Capone is played by Tina Fey.
What?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, okay, why not? Yeah.
She has the range. Also, the love interest, who is entirely useless again, as expected, is going to be played by Gal Gadot. Yeah. And she just kind of sits in the background, and her only line after her introductory scene, which is very similar to the one in Wild Wild West, she's locked in a. She's not even locked in a wall. She's like in a cage. She's literally like chained to a wall. Is like, help, I'm here. I need help. And she is unchained, and she goes, "Thank you. I am Gal Gadot. I am playing a woman." And then for the rest of the movie, every scene she's in, her only line is, "I am also here." And then in the end of the movie, The Rock and Lynn are both like, "So who of us are you going to date?" And she goes, "I am also here," and then jumps off a building, and that's the end of the movie.
What?
It's subversive. I don't know. Okay, so that's my pitch for Roaring 20s.
Okay. I'm going even further back, which means that my technology is even more advanced because of how far back I'm going. My film is called
It's a caveman spy movie. We're going straight to that.
Which is a caveman spy movie. So before I work out who's in the film, we need to establish the caveman time period.
Okay.
They've invented the wheel. They've invented the wheel, but it's square.
So we're talking minus 2000 BC because God invented the universe 4,000 years ago, as was proven in I Married a Church Girl.
Yes. So this is This is God's time. So they've got square wheels, and they
the phrase "this is God's time" is really funny. Oh my god, that really caught me off guard.
And there is fire.
Okay, that's fine.
But they're still quite scared of it.
Yes.
Just want to establish that first and foremost. Because
I'm so excited for what the villains like robots going to be.
the lead, played by John Oliver.
Who? Sorry.
John Oliver.
John Oliver.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's a caveman spy who goes around on roller skates, but the roller skates have square wheels.
He's just
so he basically plays his own theme tune because you can hear him. He's like, and you think, oh, it's a train coming. No, it's just John Oliver on roller skates.
Does he sing his theme tune? Because I've heard John Oliver sing, and he's not very good.
He doesn't sing the theme tune, but he sings his stage directions. So he'd be like, I'm going to come and punch you now. I'm going to take a swing at you. But it's all in like the style of Beastie Boys. So like, oh yeah, punch, yeah. Oh, gonna tell you what I'm going to do, punch. And then he does that, and then he punches you.
You could have picked a less appropriate actor than John Oliver, and I'm obsessed with it.
It's the first thing that came into my head. I wasn't thinking of John Oliver, but John Oliver came out of my mouth.
Because I'll be giving him the MCU treatment where he has to get really buff for this movie as well. Because I think buff John Oliver is maybe the funniest 3 words that ever left my mouth.
It's the MCU treatment, but to a caveman level.
Okay.
So he's going to buff himself, but he's going to buff himself to look like a Momoa type.
He's got Jason Momoa's physique and then Joel Oliver's face.
Yes, and his assistant or his partner in this is Christopher Biggins.
This is the best movie ever made. You can throw my movie out right now. We're making ooh.
Christopher Biggins is the one who invented fire.
Okay.
So, like, what they do, spoilers at the end, they attach fire to the roller skates. That's how they go. It's very jet. And the whole time, what they're trying to do is they're trying to stop the technological advances of what's his name? Oh, I can't think of his name. I'm trying to think of his name. Doesn't matter. I'll think of someone else.
Who do you mean?
He's one of those comedians who's on the quiz show, but always does the same answer.
Rich Diawadi?
No, he's American. He looks a bit like Steve Buscemi mixed with Joe Latruglio. I know who I mean. Don't think anyone else does. So Joe Latruglio is going to be our villain. And he...
sorry, are you talking about like a British comedian here?
American.
An American comedian who's on quiz shows.
But like
Rich Hall?
I'll have to find it later because I don't know who I mean.
But I'll take Joe Latruglio as the villain.
Yeah.
As the villain.
He has one leg, but it's in the middle of his body, and he goes by the name of he goes by the name of Pogo. And
right, not offensive at all. Great.
No, because we've got Ugo, Logo, and Pogo are the names of the 3 cavemen. God,
this is so dumb.
And he's invented the Ferris wheel. And he wants the Ferris wheel to spin so fast they get to go forward in time.
Okay, but is it a square Ferris wheel?
No, that's why they're like, whoa, he's a villain. Because circles are evil in this world.
Okay.
Because there's no corners, which means there's no structure, which means there's no cause for them.
which means there's nowhere for God to sit down, and this is God's time.
Yes. So basically, long story short, spin, time travel.
Okay.
And they get sucked into the 1990s.
Yeah.
Which then brings John Oliver into it, where he joins the Beastie Boys.
Yep.
And together with the Beastie Boys, they defeat Pogo by spinning the Ferris wheel backwards so fast that he becomes
They go back into
a fish.
They de-evolve him.
Yeah.
But this is God's time, so evolution doesn't exist.
No, which is why he can't evolve back.
So he just dies.
Yeah. And the love interest in this is Natalie Portman.
Okay.
And
by far the biggest name in this movie. This movie starring John Oliver, Christopher Biggins, and Joe Latrulio, and the Beastie Boys.
And Natalie Portman.
Then Natalie Portman
is a cave painter.
Okay.
And she narrates it and paints the pictures, but a scene late, so you see what happens before she narrates what happens.
This is
the dumbest thing I've ever thought of.
This is the best idea either of us have ever had. It's no contest. Ooh is obviously the choice for this week's production. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then in the credits, can we please just have another version of the Wild Wild West theme song where they're going, we're going straight to that ooh, ah, ooh.
Yeah.
Except it's the Beastie Boys do the rap for the most of it.
Yeah, 100%.
And also John Oliver, who's a member of the Beastie Boys now.
Wild. I don't know why it has to start with wild, but it does. Wild, ooh.
Ooh, ah, ooh.
Ooh, ah. Yeah.
Oh, I was assuming like ooh is the name of the time period, and ooh is the addition to make this a movie.
Oh, so it's not called like, wild, ooh, ah, ooh.
No, it's just called ooh, ah, ooh.
Right, that makes more sense.
So it's like how the Wild West is like the time period, and
because you said Roaring 20s, didn't you? Yeah.
Roaring 20s. Yeah. So technically it should be ooh, but like I'll take ooh, ah, ooh because why not? It sounds funny. I think, for one thing, I think you're a goddamn genius. You are maybe the smartest dumb person I've ever known. Or the dumbest smart person, either way.
I prefer that.
You prefer dumbest smart?
Yeah.
You are the smartest dumb person.
Damn it!
And with that, I think we may be done with this week's episode.
I'm just done with everything.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us a like, comment, and subscribe. Give us a comment if you have any ideas for what we should watch in the future. Next week we're doing Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm excited because I'm a big old nerd. I feel like we should do like all the classic outro stuff. Like that, we should thank Ness. We haven't thanked Ness on the show yet. Thanks for doing the editing, Ness. I mean, Keenan lives with you, so you put up with enough of us already. But cheers for enduring me for a bit as well. And thanks for the response to the show so far. We've been getting good feedback, and we're into it.
Yeah, loving it. Having a good old time.
Yeah, this is one of the highlights of my week recording this show. It's so stupid.
It is very dumb. Very dumb.
So we shall see you all next week. And Keenan, if you'd like to leave them all with a classic outro to Electric Boogaloo. Bye.